What's up, everybody? This is Apocalypse Doc, your doctor in the apocalypse, and we are back in my YouTube survival tutorial series. So today I'm going to be taking some awesome advice from Jay White, who commented on one of my videos and mentioned that when I bind values in my UI, they're being updated every tick. And when he said that, I was like, holy crap, like, I don't want that. I don't want to decrease performance. So I actually went back to my Biophys game that I'm working on, and I updated everything with a new method using the rep notify function and an event dispatcher. So we're going to do that today, and we're also going to add an icon to the food bar. So let's get started. So let's go to our widget blueprint for the food bar UI, which is right here. And let's do the efficiency thing first. So let's click on the progress bar, and then you see on the right, see how I bound the percent? I can't even click in here because it's bound to this function, right? Well, we are going to remove that binding because we want to be efficient, okay? And so let's go back to what that function was. Get food bar percent, and we're getting the current food value from the stats component, remember, dividing it by the max food and plugging that in, and that's giving us a value between 0 and 1, and that's what's displayed on the bar. And I'll just demonstrate that. Okay, so how do we set this value without binding it to this function? Well, I'm going to show you. Let's go ahead and take advantage of the fact that we already have this code here. So let's copy that. Let's go to the event graph, and I'm going to paste that. And I'm going to create a custom event, and it's going to be called refresh food bar. Okay. And let's go ahead and make sure this food bar is a variable. It's checked. Okay. So then we should see it here. There it is. Hold Control and drag it into the graph to get a getter. Drag out from that variable and type set percent. And then you're going to plug this value right into here and connect the execution pins. Okay? Compile and save. So now we've got this function, but we need to run this function. So I'm really obsessed with making functions like init functions, initialization functions. It's just very efficient and exciting for me, as strange as that sounds. So we're actually going to initialize this when it's added to the HUD, the main HUD. All right. So before we do that, we're going to create an event dispatcher, and this is going to be used to update the value of this food bar, to update the percent whenever the current food variable changes. So click plus on the event dispatcher and type update food bar. Okay, perfect. Compile and save. And we're going to want the stats component to be an input on here. All right, so click add variable, type stats component. Okay, name our variable. Oops. Compile and save. Okay, and we're going to bind this function to this dispatcher. We're going to have to add an input here, the stats component. There we go. Drag this here, connect these pins, delete that, compile and save, because we need to make sure that our event dispatcher here, this input is the same as the event we're binding it to, okay? Alternatively, you can drag from event, type custom event, and just create it that way. But I already made the event, so connect those pins, compile and save, and we want to call this on the event construct, and I'm going to use a sequence node just in case I want to add other things. All right. The way I understand event dispatchers work, you're going to call from wherever, whatever class you're going to call this dispatcher, this is going to be listening and it's going to execute this event that's connected, okay? So whenever we call update food bar, this refresh food bar function or event is going to run, okay? So where do we want to call this from? Well, let's go back to our stats component. And remember, we made that food variable, the current food, it's replicated and it's rep notify. So what does that mean? Basically, let's double click on that, open this up. Whenever this variable current food is changed by anything, whenever the value is changed, this function is going to fire, okay? So we want the food bar on the HUD to be updated whenever the current food variable changes. So I want to call that event dispatcher right here, okay? So how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to need access to this food bar UI. Okay. Here we go. Here's where we've added the food bar to the HUD, the main HUD, okay? We've created the widget. We've grabbed our main HUD, we've grabbed the canvas in the main HUD, and we added that child to this canvas. But we still don't have this food bar variable, so we're going to create it right here. So let's move this stuff aside. All right, drag out here, promote to variable, and I'm going to call this WBP for widget blueprint, food bar UI ref. Okay, and I'm going to dump that into the do not edit category because I do not want to ever touch this. Don't want to change it. Okay, so let's just connect up our execution pins. And I'm going to move this into the content. So now we have access to the food bar UI. All right, so let's go back to our onRep current food function. And remember, this function will fire whenever this current food variable is changed. So let's grab a reference to our food bar UI, convert it to a validated get because we want to make sure this is valid or it's going to try to execute and just have errors. And what do we want to do here? Remember, we want to call the event dispatcher update food bar. It's going to go down here and refresh. That's what we want. Okay, let's call update food bar. And it's asking us for a stats component reference. And remember, we're in the stats component. So let's just get a reference to self. Compile and save. There we go. It's as easy as that. And the benefit of this, if I didn't state before, is by not having this percent bound, it's not going to be updating every tick. We don't need that. We need the food bar to refresh whenever these values change. Okay, so I'm going to delete that old function. Okay. All right, and let's go ahead and do the same thing for the text. All right, so the food bar text, first we got to make it a variable, compile and save, and then remove binding, compile and save. All right, and then let's copy all of this code. Copy. Let's go back to the refresh food bar and we'll just add that on the end, okay? And remember, we have our stats component right here as an input on the event. So let's go ahead and connect these pins. Delete that. And let's go ahead and make the text. Remember, we just made this a variable by checking this box. And we want to set text, okay? So type set text. Then let's connect these execution pins and connect that. Compile and save. And then we can go ahead and delete this function right there. Compile and save. And that should work. Okay. So let's see here. I think that's everything. So let's see if this is even going to work. Okay, let's push play. And then, okay, I don't see that. Oh, wait. We forgot to initialize. So we didn't set the initial values, okay? So let's do that. Let's go back to this food bar And I'm going to create a function called, where are you? Init food bar values. Okay. And I want as an input for that function, I want the stats component. Okay. Make sure that's right. Yep. Okay. And I'm basically going to call the refresh food bar function. Okay. Okay. And that is going to go ahead and update. And I want that to run as soon as this food bar is added to the screen. I want to initialize it. I want this stuff set. So let's go to the function where we added it to the screen. That's in the stats component. Add food bar UI to main HUD. So here's where we grabbed it, we added it to the canvas, and we decided where it was going to be. Now let's call that function. All right. I'm going to get a reference to this, make it a validated get, which may not be needed, but it's not going to hurt. And I'm going to call initialize food bar values. And it's asking us for that stats component input, and we're just going to get a reference to self. Compile and save. Now let's check this out. Okay, it's set up. And let's see if it's going to be ticking down. Oh, there we go. We're losing 10 every 5 seconds, remember? Perfect. Cool. So instead of it updating this value literally every second, or excuse me, every tick, it's only going to update it when it changes. And we decided, remember, that it's going to change, let's see, every 5 seconds, I believe. So let's go to our timer function, decrease food. There we go, food to generate time. So every 5 seconds, which obviously is too much, okay? So I'm actually going to make it decrease every second, and I'm actually going to decrease the amount. Let's see, instead of 10, maybe 1 every second, and let's see if that can look smoother. Yeah, it's smoother, definitely. It's obviously still too fast, but at least it shows us that it's working. All right, so let's go and add an icon to this food bar, okay? So let's go back to the designer window. And remember, we have an overlay here, so we can add a whole bunch of stuff here. And let's close that border. Okay, so let's grab an image, drop it in the overlay. Okay, and I'm going to call this nothing. I'm just going to leave it as image 22. Let's get some padding. Ooh, it's definitely too big. Let's figure that out. Open the brush here. Looks like 24 out of 24 is still too big. 16, 16? Maybe. We should probably try, let's make our food bar a little thicker. Let's see, 32. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and center this image there. And let's give it some padding on the left. That looks good. And it's still, I think, too tiny. So let's make it 24. Well, that's okay. Not too bad. So we want a food image. So I am using some icons from the Survivor Icons pack. You can buy that on the Unreal Engine Marketplace. So let's find food. I think there's an apple in here. Hunting for food. There we go. An apple. Let's grab an apple for all the vegans and vegetarians out there. All right, let's put that in there. And it actually reset the size, so let's change that back to 24. Compile and save. And there you go. That should show up on the screen. Let's check it out. There you go. There's our apple. A little too small, but you can tweak it however you like. All right, and let's add a little padding on the bottom because it seemed to be, it needs that. Let's try 3. Now let's look. It's actually too small. Why do I keep doing that? Let's play this, and then I'll push F11 to make the window bigger. There we go. See, there you go. We got our cute little apple and our little food bar going down by 1 every second. Awesome. So next time we're going to create a, when our food gets to 0, we're going to turn on a function that's going to start decreasing our health. Okay. But first we need to create a health system, and that's going to be in the next video. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all the help. If you'd like to see more videos, give this video a like. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss any more content. Have a good day.